everybody, and really appreciate you all coming out here to celebrate, which is a very important time for us in CalHeat, our Hall of Fame, and some other award winners. So thank you very much for attending, coming, bringing your families, and spending the time with us this evening. It's a very special time for the team, and we'd like to thank the CalHeat for allowing us during your big tournament to host this event. You have so many things going on right now, and I'm sure this wasn't easy to do to help us out, but we really appreciate it. It was very kind of you, and we're glad that we could come back during this big tournament and watch the CalHeat and kind of memories of our old days of playing and seeing the new generations and the new CalHeat and the success that you have had. I also want to thank the person that's kind of made this all possible, the guy that had the vision, build it and they will come, Ray Gerke. Ray? And now I'd like to we're going to have an invocation from Rick Murray. Rick's originally from Boston, went to the first public high school in America, Boston Latin, Holy Cross. He's been out here for 40 years in the Interfaith Church in San Francisco, and Rick's going to read us an invocation. Rick?
The space bar.
Thank you, Mark. Mark asked me to do the invocation this evening, and I'm not a clergyman at all, so my first reaction was, God help us, literally. So, but through Mark, I've got to know the sport of team handball, and it's just a tremendous sport. And it was great to see all the wonderful athletes today. So I've scrabbled together, I guess you'd call it an invocation, so I'll do my best here. We've all come here this evening from many different locations. We share a passion for health and fitness, athletics, sports in general, and of course, specifically this great sport of team handball. We gather for this dinner in a spirit of sisterhood and brotherhood. We extend our sincere congratulations to all of these great athletes being so deservedly inducted into the Team Handball Hall of Fame. We pray that our time together will provide inspiration for us to all use our love of sports as a shining example to better our many diverse communities in positive ways for people of all ages and backgrounds. We keep in mind always the enduring values of healthy competition. We pray that our common passion for our sport of team handball can serve as an example to future generations to develop confidence in themselves in moving forward, using sports as a means to build a better world for all. Thank you.
When you talk to Olympians, and we've talked about this before, what do they remember most? What is so important to them? Is it the practice? Is it the team? Is it winning? Is it a medal? What we hear from most Olympians is it's the day you walk out to opening ceremonies with that outfit on, representing your country. We've been very fortunate to have Cindy Stinger, who's done that 3 times in her life. And she's going to give us the Olympic creed.
You know, it's interesting because when people ask me what my most cherished memory is of my Olympic experience, obviously marching into the Coliseum with 100,000 fans was incredible. But what I talk about is our first match against China. And when we went into those games, no one expected us to win a match. And we ended up beating China in our first match at the 1984 Olympics. That is a memory that will stay with me forever. And when I talk about the Olympic creed and what it means, it really truly represents, you know, the ideals of being at your best, not necessarily always ending up on the podium, but being at your best and performing and showing the world what you've trained so hard to do. And leading into those games in '84, we had been preparing for 8 years to show the world that we could play against the best in the world. So the Olympic Creed was written by Baron Pierre de Coubertin, the founder of the modern Olympic Games, a Frenchman. And Pierre de Coubertin got the idea for the phrase, which is adopted as the Olympic Creed, from a speech that was given by Bishop Ethelbert Talbot at a service for Olympic champions during the 1908 Olympic Games. 1908. In 2028, that will be 120 years since those words were penned. Does anybody know where the 1908 Olympic Games were held? I have a prize if you do.
Antwerp? No, that's 28. France. Greece. Stockholm. 1908.
1908.
St. Louis.
They were they were held in London in 1908. But Rome had won the opportunity to host the games, but Mount Vesuvius erupted in 1906 and made it impossible for Rome to host the games. So in the spirit of the Olympic Creed, which reads, "The most important thing in the Olympic Games is not to win, but to take part, just as the most important thing in life is not the triumph, but the struggle. The essential thing is not to have conquered, but to have fought well." And this creed appears in every Olympic stadium during every opening ceremony. And it will appear in SoFi Stadium in 2028. It'll appear in Paris. It'll appear in Cortina in 28. It will appear in Brisbane in 2032. We don't know where we're going in 2030 yet for the Winter Games, but hopefully we'll be back in Salt Lake City. So the creed and the motto, Citius Altius Fortius, swifter, higher, stronger, what you need, those attributes to be a great team handball Olympian, you have to be swifter, higher, and stronger. Those words and this creed are meant to inspire the athletes to embrace the Olympic spirit and perform to the best of their abilities. That's what those words represent, and that's what everyone in this room should live by and aspire to be. Thanks.
How about that for well-rehearsed, classy introductions? We spare no
For
expense.
those of you that are old enough, I'm Abbott, he's Costello.
And tomorrow night, we reverse the roles, and good to see you, Wes.
Thanks, Mark.
Wes and I go way back to the UCLA club team, where I happened to wander in one January in 1977, and lo and behold, behind the goal, or in front of the goal, I don't know, were you behind the goal that night? In front of the goal was the man to my left, Wes Brinsfield. And you might ponder, why are two UCLA guys being the hosts for an event that commemorates CalHeat? Well, first of all, we helped train Cal State Hayward. We sort of taught the game to them, so we were a mentor. Plus, we both snuck on the team at various times when it suited us. Wes openly in 1986 on, I think, a national championship team, right?
Correct.
I don't have that claim, but I did sneak on for a game against a Swedish club team named either Lugi or Lugi, and I prefer the former, Lugi, and I just confirmed that by looking at pictures that I was on the team, and having spent most of my adult life in Northern California, I hung out with these guys. So it's great to be here to commemorate, but we want to start by kind of emphasizing what Handball Heroes legacy banquets are all about. We started 3 years ago at a place not far from here, the Crown Plaza Hotel in Union City, but we got a better deal. And we're here at the Doubletree because, as you can tell, that's where all the players are. Anyway, here's a brief look at Wes and I 3 years ago on opening night of Handball Heroes. Welcome to whatever this is, which we think will be the first night of commemoration of what we call Handball Heroes. People who have made a difference for our sport. And tonight we start with a night to commemorate two people who have decidedly changed handball in America, and that is Mike Cavanaugh and Ray Gerke.
So that Ray is actually, through his efforts to get a full-size gym, has been one of the first activists for environmental awareness. And the reason I say that is because prior to having a full-time gym, a full-size gym, or any gym that was marked, we had to tape every gym. And did you know that it takes, now you can fact check me on this if you wish, about 6.5 rolls of tape to tape a full-size court. It's about 215 meters of tape. And over the course of the existence of that gym, and let's say it started in 1995-96, I estimate there are about 1,750 practices that would have been held there that we would have had to have taped, or whoever was playing there. That works out to, and a couple tournaments, so about 1,820 linings of tape, or 11,886.96896 rolls of tape that is not in a landfill right now. So thank you very much. By the way, at about $10 a roll, that's roughly $120,000 you saved handball.
Yes, that was us 3 years ago, about 6 weeks before life as we know it shut down, just before the pandemic. And we've been dancing around the pandemic ever since. Handball Heroes II back in New Jersey skirted the issue. It looked pretty good back in May of 2021. Last year we really dodged a bullet by pulling it off in August in Detroit when no one wanted to fly and no one wanted to show up. And here we are today and no problem filling a room. So anyway, it's great to be back, Wes, with you. And I'm going to turn the next award over to you.
Okay, thank you. Before, I'm going to go a little off script, if I may. I have in my hand a piece of paper that I wrote some notes on about 3 days ago. And one of the things that it says on here is how happy and proud I was to be in the stands in 1984 at the opening ceremonies and watch people that I knew walk out. I could see their smiles from the top row of the LA Coliseum. It was about the best feeling I've ever had, except getting married and having kids. I didn't have the kids. I parent the kids. But again, it made an impression on me. I'd worked, I'd sweated, I'd seen these guys and gals work so hard, and then to have the disappointment of 1980 and continue working hard until 1984. So when I was up there and I watched everybody come in, it was glorious. It was fabulous. And the card stunts weren't too bad in the stands either. I don't know if people remember that were on the ground, but it was fun. So again, I want to thank you all for letting me be a part of this. I feel like the sixth Beatle. The fifth one you know about, but because I've been around people that have done fabulous things, and you're all here. Everybody in their generation believes their music is the best in the world, and it's always been the best. Again, I would say that the rock stars, you all that we're going to be honoring tonight, and the others that are here that have played the sport, you were my rock stars, and you continue to be. So I'm living a dream. So thank you. So speaking of that, one of the the people that started this, player number one, I guess you might say, in the United States, Dennis Burkholz, is here. And I'd like to introduce Dennis to come up and give a little thank you to Mike.
And why don't you start the video?
American Handball Associates first handed out the Founders Award at Handball Heroes II, held at the Swim and Sport Club of Flanders, New Jersey, often called the birthplace of the sport in this country. There, we honored Peter Buning Sr., his wife Renata Buning, and Laszlo Jurak on his 90th birthday for their contributions to bringing the game to these shores and creating an organization recognized by the international handball community. In 2022, we added Dennis Burkholz, captain of our first Olympic team in 1972, the Army Champs team, coach of our Olympic team in 1976, and a lifelong promoter and developer of both court and beach handball. This year, we are adding a final name to this group of founders, Michael Cavanaugh, past national men's team coach, the sport's long-serving CEO, and the man almost single-handedly responsible for all handball development west of the Mississippi. Welcome to what we're calling the Founders Circle. It is well-deserved.
With the national team in 1979, and Cavy had the idea that we needed to be bunnies on the track, so he taped cotton puffs on our butts so we would all be bunnies and run fast. But I've never held that against him. Ultimately, what I remember about Cavy is his dedication, his loyalty, his integrity. He was all about the team. He was all about trying to move the sport forward. And that's what I'll always remember.
Michael was always looking to promote competitions. He became very active, I know, when I was director of the committee on competition, and I ran the nationals. He was a key individual, clearly a key individual. Michael was always looking to promote competition, whether it be a small tournament, starting off in the early days with John Silva at North Carolina, or a small tournament at Ohio State. Mike was always looking to promote it, actively get the word out to all the clubs about a particular competition so that the sport could really grow.
Mike was the main reason why I got the first touch, the first contact, and the first question to the American Federation. From there on, Mike for me is, we like to call each other brothers. You know, for so many years, for so many times, we worked together, we were in different places, but Mike is Mike. I never saw anybody dedicating so much time and so much effort and so much intelligence to a handball in any country that I was around for all these years. And the capacity of working and doing, from carrying the goals in the balls and setting up the national team and then the national championship, etc. We all know what Mike did. So for me, it was very easy to deal with him. He was a wonderful person, and I'm very pleased to get to know him.
I don't think I have a whole lot to say after those three accolades, but I had a chuckle before when Mark was talking about being a friend since 1977 with Wes. Mike and I have been in handball together since 1970 when we were part of this Army Champs program, and we've stayed close associates, business part of handball, as well as playing together and being good friends. And I don't want to get into depth about what a great person he is. I will say this, if there's someone that deserves to be a founder besides Peter Buning, who started the sport in the States, and I know I'm on that list, but the second true founder in our program is Mike Cavanaugh. He's done everything a person can do. He's got 20-plus years running this organization. He's organized very big events in the U.S. with us. But the most important thing about Mike is he's a friend to everybody in the program. And I appreciate, Michael, your friendship with me for 50 years or whatever it is, and the way you've handled yourself in handball. So I introduce my good friend, Mike Cavanaugh.
Mark Lockenmeyer, you took my opening thing away by recognizing the Olympians. That's a tradition within the Olympic Committee, so scratch that one off.
I learned from you, Mike.
I was going to, however, have the national team players stand as well, because there's some of those people and they get forgotten. Thank you, Dennis, for the kind words. That's part of my opening. This award is an honor, and it's humbling at the same time to be included in that group. Peter, Renata, Laszlo, Dennis, they were giants, and I walked on their shoulders. I know there's probably an over-under on the times I'll get emotional. I know my Air Force guys are counting that. They're watching. But I'll just say we'll see, and that pause doesn't count as one. What I'm truly gratified for standing here is some of the people in this room, and there'll be a common theme. Mark Wright was a two-sport athlete at UCLA. Knew John Wooden by first name, or John Wooden knew him by first name. Scored a touchdown against Stanford, played on the national team, helped us tried to qualify for the 80 games, and found a way to give back. That's Mark Wright. Dennis Burkholz, okay, Olympic player, Olympic coach, past president, and trust me, it's not easy to be presidents of an NGB. Some of us can relate to that. And was key to the Atlanta program, men's and women's. And he's helped kickstart the beach program and took that to a level that we hadn't seen. So that's, again, it's a way of giving back. These guys find a way. Cindy, three-time Olympian, you've already met her, gave the athlete oath at the 87 Pan Am Games. She's had 36 years working for the United States Olympic Paralympic Committee, and has run the Olympic Alumni Association and is known by everyone. And here she is, Cindy, you honor me. And you keep giving back, finding ways to give back. That'll be a theme to this. Joe McVane, Steve Goss.
Is that one?
Club players to Olympic Festival, national team, Olympians, and giving back. They're helping people in the medical field. I'm so proud of you guys. And, when I started, I look at Chris Kappelman giving his life to the sport. I could go around the table here and see everybody. My gratifying thing is at Air Force. I'm now at 23 years. Produced 2 orthopedic surgeons, guys that are flying 13 different airframes. I have a F-22 squadron commander who finished Top Gun school and test pilot school. And, he's on his way to be an astronaut. I don't think there's now 4,000 applicants, and he might not make it, but he's up there. The co-captains of my 2015 team, and I thought Drew Donlin was going to be here, but you remember the evacuation in Kabul a year ago. He was a C-17 pilot. That was co-captain of Air Force 2015. So these guys, like the Olympians, they go on to do other things. I'm really proud of them. Is Drew coming tonight?
He's supposed to, he's on the program.
Yeah.
I have pictures on the next slide of him.
He's playing right now.
Yeah.
Well, they got delayed and.
All right, well, Drew, when he comes in here, you'll recognize him. He's 6'7", 240, and was one of the first walk-on athletes that I had. Most of the Air Force guys are real cerebral and not all that physical, but Drew was an exception. And 10 days ago, I saw him score 3 goals against Morocco in our first World Championship win. And
Yeah. Keep going, I have 3 more.
Anyway, with the Space Force, who he's now a member of, they sponsored him to play in Spain. And at 6'7", 240, he was the smallest of 3 circles on a first division club in Spain. Okay. By the way, we texted after the match, and although he had three goals, I reminded him he had a missed shot, a drop pass, and a 2-minute penalty. Said, so you're at plus and minus, you're at 0, Okay, clearly there's nothing special about me because, and I'll explain how that, I don't mean to be self-deprecating here, but a lot of this has been chance, timing, and serendipity. I'm going to bore you with a little history. I was drafted in the United States Army in 1970. I won't tell you the story how that happened. It was 8 weeks of basic training, normal. I said, I'm a pretty smart guy, I'll test well, and I'll get some kind of good job. Well, I got 8 weeks of advanced infantry. I got my orders for Vietnam. My specialty at the time was a machine gunner, and I won't bore you with their life expectancy in a firefight, but it was in the seconds. And the next day, out of 200 guys, they picked 8 of us, and I got basically White House duty. It was the president's ceremonial unit. It's called the Old Guard. So I went from going to Vietnam to the Old Guard. Okay, what happened at that time? Well, Peter Buning, who you saw, made a deal with General Westmoreland, who was chief of staff, 4-star general, who lived at my base in Fort Myer. And they started the Army Champs program. Again, serendipity, chance. The guy that worked in the office, General Westmoreland, ordered the best athletes from forts in the East Coast to come to Fort Dix. I was clearly not one of the best athletes. I played on a flag football team, champion. The quarterback of that team worked in the office, put my name down. So I'm on a bus going to Fort Dix, where I arrive at a camp that Dennis ran. At that time, he was my hero because I had 0 hair. I mean, not on the top, that's something different. But we had what was called white walls. And Dennis had a Beatles cut, and I said, that's what I want to be when I grow up. He was an athlete ahead of his time, and I introduced him and spent a lot of time explaining, what he did. So I won't bore you with that. But Dennis selected me, and I became an instructor in the Army Champs program. That led to the majority of the 72 Olympic team where it came out of the Army Champs program, U.S. Army officers and enlisted men. I was accepted at UCLA. Serendipity, I didn't know about the GI Bill. Here my school's going to be paid for. That's great. By chance, I looked at the UCLA newspaper, which is a great newspaper, Daily Bruin it's called, and I looked and said, oh my God, there's a handball club at UCLA. So now you know, I did not start the club at UCLA. It was started by an actor who was giving lectures in the drama department. So I opened up the door to look in because he was hyped as a Switzerland player, these German players. I expected all these studs to be there. Opened up and I looked at, these guys aren't anything. I went into my street clothes, started playing with them. First practice, Bo Svensson was his name. He's been in several movies. Okay, I won't go into that, but he gathered up all the uniforms and the 3-ring binder, and he said, "You're the new president." That was my first night there. So again, timing, chance, serendipity. As a result of an opening came up in '73, again, a tryout run by Dennis at West Point, and it was brutal. July at West Point, 3 sessions a day, no water, no AC. Guys were dropping like flies. Do you remember that? Okay. Well, anyway, that team led to my first international competition in Canada, led to playing the Pan Am Championships, where we beat Brazil and Argentina, qualified for the World Championships in '74. I was released from the national team in '75, so I didn't make the Olympics in '72 or '76. Peter Buning called me. The Saudi Arabian national team wants a coach for a 2-month program at Springfield College, and I'd like you to coach that. I said, "Peter, come on. I'm coaching UCLA. I can't jump to a national team." He said, "Don't worry about it. They don't know anything." And it turned out that they didn't. But I got Dan Foster, almost an Olympian, and Shandor Rivniak, and he was my goalie coach. And so Peter, chance, serendipity, timing, got me into coaching seriously. Dennis, I hope you remember this. Drunk and hungover, after closing ceremony in Montreal, you organized some guys to come up, play the Saudis in an official international match, and my first international loss was to the United States. The Saudis had been watching the U.S. lose to Hungary, get crushed by Hungary, crushed by some other teams, and they're looking at me like, "Oh, what are you coaching us for?" So I went into the locker room, the U.S. locker room before the game, and I said, "Blow their effing doors off." You know, just, and it was like 16-2 at halftime. Okay, that's great. Then I had to go back and I said, "Okay, now back off because these guys are proud and they'll walk off the court." So, now it's a little side. Okay, 79 and 80, I got the national team, the reins of the national team, and we moved to the Olympic Training Center. It was a big experiment. We lost to Cuba by 2, beat Argentina, Brazil, Mexico. So I couldn't call myself an Olympian as a player or an Olympian as a coach. That's important. Okay, again, chance, opportunity. The Olympic Games came to LA. They came to look for somebody that knows anything about handball. That was me. They hired me. You know, Wayne Collette was my last interview. So that was in 82, 83, and 84. History lesson here. Munich was a massacre, a terrorist massacre. Montreal, they closed the books on the finance because people would go to jail. They didn't put the roof on, they didn't put grass around venues, they didn't do anything. So it was a huge loss. The people in Montreal played interest on the principle for a number of years. Okay, the next Olympic Games, 80, was in Moscow. Nobody knows who paid for that or how it was run. So it was a big experiment, hosting the Olympic Games. 2 cities bid in 84, Tehran and LA. LA got it, okay? So it was a big risk, and Uberoth, who had a propensity for drama, was the CEO of the Olympic Committee. He hired 28 guys, $1 a year, to be the commissioners of the different sports. Then they hired 28 people like me who knew the different sports. So we worked together, and it was pound the budget. We may not have shooting, we may not have modern pentathlon, we may not have a lot of these things. End of the day, I'm sure a lot of pressure from the IOC. We had shooting, we had modern pentathlon, it was a full boat. But April, games are in July, close the doors. We had the commissioners and the competition directors in one meeting, and he said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to make a profit. Oh my God. Yeah, but still stay on your budgets. We still got to run this. We can't have terrorist actions. We can't have this, and this. And he said we'd make 15 million. That's unbelievable. At the end of the day, LA made 252 million. LA Foundation got a quarter. The US Olympic Committee got a half, I think, one there. All the sports got 1.3 million. Okay, Peter Buning and our attorney at the time created a foundation, set up an office, and we were able to hire staff. So in '86, I moved out to the Olympic Training Center because the Olympic Committee offered us office space. And, you know, I look back now, and there were people like me being CEOs of sport who were dinosaurs. We called ourselves dinosaurs because we came from the sport. And then sports started hiring fundraisers, MBA people, you know, run it like a business. So, boy, did I struggle. You know, it was low resources, and I had all these insurance and injuries and behavior and all those other things. But as Ryan, as you know, at least once a month, every other month, all the CEOs of sport get together, the Olympic sports get together by Zoom or in presence. And I got to introduce myself as the second, fourth, and sixth CEO of Team Handball. And I got some chuckles. And one of my friends from boxing said, oh, he's a glutton for punishment. And then somebody else said, no, he loves the sport. So that was good enough for me. When we moved to Utah, I didn't have a job. And the USOC came to me because the governance failed within the organization. We're not alone. Other sports governance fails. And they said, you're not part of the problem, you're part of the solution, come work for us. So I went to work for the Olympic Committee to keep the athlete programs running, and then to set up a new NGB. And it was public hearings and interviews and blah, blah, blah. We settled on Utah for good or for bad. So then I was out of the job. And again, Chris Vidala, you may know, Ryan, came to me and said, well, you're not part of the problem, you're part of the solution. Let's do this. And oh, by the way, table tennis is in trouble. Would you go be their CEO for 90 days? Table tennis governance had failed. The US Olympic Committee came in, helped restructure them. And my 90 days turned into 6 years with table tennis. And it's just, you know, that was just unbelievable good timing on my part. Okay, I'm going to close with some of the things that I'm very proud of. I was competition director for the 84, 87, and 90 Goodwill games. And those were the 87 games. Only U.S. handball team sports, we were the only one, men and women, to win gold medal in the 87 Pan Am Games. Olympic qualification for us. I'm gonna diverge here for a minute because I witnessed Cindy in a very tight game against Canada. There was a little bit of argument on the U.S. bench saying, can't we all get along? And continued the game. Do you remember that? And then you went on to win and qualified for the Olympic Games, and so did the men in double overtime. How's my time? Okay. These are pride points. I was credentialed for 8 Olympic Games, 1 Winter Games, multiple Pan Am Games, PAM Championships, blah, blah, blah. 2 Paralympic Games, summer and winter, and I coached 4 World Games of the Deaf. There's another guy in the United States that claims to have won the club national championships in 4 decades. That guy's bullshit. I'm the only one that do that in 4 decades, and Peter Siskin is the one I'm talking about.
You're right. You're correct.
Yeah. Thanks, Kev. I knew there was a reason I liked you. Okay, for the USOC, I had 18 years serving on committees, 4 in games prep, 8 to stable sports, and 6 on the awards committee. I was proud to represent the Pan Ams in the IHF coaching committee, which led to a table official assignment at the Beijing Games. Unbelievable experience. I was one of 4 people to lead the delegation in. Cindy, you don't know this. One of 4 people to lead the winter delegation in to the Paralympic Games in Nagano. Shit, what can I say? It's wonderful. I testified for the IHF in the International Court of Arbitration of Sport for the split between the North and the South Pan Am Federation. I walked into that International Court of Arbitration of Sport, and I sat down, and there's 3 judges, attorneys on both sides. You're all alone, and the judge, first thing he said to me, Mr. Cavanaugh, please be advised that if you don't speak the truth here, you're subject to jail in Switzerland. That was pretty sobering. Proud that I was a selection committee member for 7 Olympic teams, men and women, and there were no protests for those selections. I'm done. I'm almost done. My regrets.
We're trying to make you cry 3 more times, because that's what I've got.
Not a successful, sustained fundraiser. And we're not the only NGB that has that problem. Was not successful with youth programs. And if this meeting gets over, I have 27 reasons why it's really tough in the U.S. and why Ray Gerke is such an exception. Our governance failed prior to Utah. That was gut-wrenching to have people come in and board people resign and replace a new president. I didn't nurture, Cindy, Dennis, sustained Olympic alumni. We've got a good alumni out there, and I didn't nurture that enough. And then I'm disappointed that I didn't push beach earlier. Dennis spoke last year when he got the Founders Award, and he kind of challenged us. And he mentioned something that I hadn't thought about, and he said he put handball in his will. I'm going to try and bring this down to our level here, and then just say, keep trying to find a way to give back. But you opened my eyes. I pledge tonight with my last breath to keep finding a way to help handball.
And to think I let that guy throw balls at my face. I actually stopped a couple of them too. We have a special tribute to Cindy, who just won the the General Douglas MacArthur Award. I'm going to show a little video here, and then we're going to have to ask her to come up, and I'll let the video speak for itself, I guess.
When the 1984 Summer Olympic Games opened for business in Los Angeles, handball was once again thrust onto the world stage. It had been 12 years since the sport had drawn any attention in America, not since the men's surprising victory over Spain in Munich in '72. As the teams marched in, little did we know that it would be the women who would compete for a possible medal. A team led by a former collegiate field hockey player who tried out for handball on a whim and ended up becoming one of the best in the world, certainly the best who ever played the game in this country. She then went on to a glorious career working for the U.S. Olympic Committee and spent years as the manager of the United States Olympians and Paralympians Association. For those efforts, she received the prestigious General Douglas MacArthur Award last year from the United States Olympic Endowment. The award is given to an individual in recognition of extensive and significant personal commitment to and leadership in the Olympic movement and support of the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee. Past recipients include Bob Costas, Henry Kissinger, George Steinbrenner, Bill Hybl, and Mike Moran.
And in the 20 years or 15 years or whatever the years I know her, I never saw a bad face. I never saw a bad attitude moment. I never saw anybody that it was only concentration, only it could be done better or worse. But the concentration and the intensity was always there. That's one of the things I remember from her. After that, she finished as a player. You know, for me, the fact that she was able to be all those years working for the Olympic Committee, for me as a coach, is a very satisfying feeling, because it was like, I mean, it has nothing to do with what I work with her about the work in the Olympic Committee, but it was like, wow, one of my players is doing that job with the Olympic Committee for so long and so well, you know. So congratulations, Cindy, you deserve it, and I am very pleased to be here.
I remember we used to ride around and pick up beer cans for 5 cents and bring them to the recycle center so we could buy a 6-pack of beer. And then everybody find out you had it, and they all come to your room. And we were trying to hide, me and Kim Clark. She was my roommate then. So we had a lot of fun, but it was nothing like it is today. We had no money, no support, no per diem, nothing. So we always had to go, hey, can you send me some money, like $20 so I can do my laundry? You know, they fed us and housed us, and the transportation and training stuff was all free. But other than that, we were on our own.
But she limped. She limped the whole time that she played from 81 to 84. I mean, if you look back at any of the 84 tapes, you can see her like limping, you know, and she didn't discover, but she had fractured a bone in her foot, and they never saw it. So she was playing on a broken foot 3 years, 2 practices a day, right, and still performing at an incredible level. And so she finally had surgery. I think they discovered it in 85 or maybe 86. They finally discovered it and went in and had to put a pin in it and that kind of thing. But can you imagine training twice a day on a broken foot for that long? And she just did it, you know, without complaining. She never, I don't think I ever heard her complain about how bad her foot hurt. She just did it.
She's a leader. She is a great companion, a great friend, a great teammate, willing to do anything for you to help you out. As you see in her role right now, she's a leader.
Cindy is the most disciplined, determined, diligent, and detailed person I've ever known. I think those are somewhat common traits among those members of the Halo Club, otherwise known as Olympians. Cindy has worked and lived by her motto, fair, kind, and true, and that nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. In closing, and as a former member of the United States Olympic Committee and a colleague, I can confidently and comfortably say that Cindy has done more with less of everything, for more people, and for longer than anyone in the United States Olympic movement history. Therefore, in honor of her outstanding and unmatched contributions to the Olympic and Paralympic movements in the United States and around the world, I would like to raise a glass to Cindy. Here's to Cindy and all of those who wish her well. All the rest can go to hell. Cindy, here's to your health, and here's to your happiness. Congratulations.
Wow, that was incredible to see my teammate Pam Boyd, probably my best friend, someone that as a young college athlete, we went to Colorado Springs for the first time to play a sport we knew nothing about. We've remained friends for so many years. It's the reason I go home to New Jersey. Kirk Milburn is a dear friend of mine from the United States Olympic Committee. I worked with him for 20 years in anti-doping. I was in anti-doping for 10 years before I got the call to run the alumni office, and he's remained a dear friend. Sherry Wynn, of course, was on the 84 and 88 Olympic team with me. And of course, Javier, to see Javier on camera, he looks really well. I think that's what makes my heart feel so blessed right now. But thank you for that incredible footage and video. And I'd just like to say to the honored guests, the American Handball Associates, athletes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you, thank you. First, I'd like to say thank you to the American Handball Association for this great event and all that they've done and all that they're doing to remember the past and embrace the future of team handball in the United States. Secondly, I'd like to thank Mark Wright for his passion, for his leadership and love of team handball, and for his sharing and giving back to the sport in such a noble, selfless, and unbelievable way. And just so you know, Mark could play a little handball back in the day. I saw it, and I know when someone can play.
See, honey?
I'd also like to recognize and congratulate the other honored guests and award winners tonight. What an accomplished group. And lastly, but certainly not least, I'd like to thank my family, my teammates, my coaches, administrators, USA Team Handball, the USOPC, and my friends for believing in and helping me reach my dreams. Because as you all know, no one wins an award or gets recognized on their own. Mike Cavanaugh, you deserve a big shout out anytime you're in our company. Anytime. You have been such a rock for team handball. One of the first people I met in 1978. I've seen you over the years just working tirelessly for this sport. You are an unbelievable guy, and I just cherish our friendship so much. I love you so much. And for all the people that took the time to be a talking head up there on the screen, just remember, paybacks are, I won't say it, a witch. Thank you for the special recognition and honor that you've given me tonight. I'm thanking you for an award that I received from the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Endowment. I received the General Douglas MacArthur Award, which was a huge surprise. I received the letter from Bill Hybl. I received the award from Bill Hybl at the New York Athletic Club, and it was one of the most humbling experiences I've ever had in my life. And Mark wanted me to talk a little bit about the General Douglas MacArthur Award. I would say a few things. They give the award to someone who has made a positive influence. They give the award to someone who's shown prolonged service to the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee in service to Olympians and Paralympians in general. They give the award to someone who has a commanding presence. That one I'm not so sure about, but certainly General Douglas MacArthur had a commanding presence, and who knows where the United States Olympic Committee would be if it wasn't for him 95 years ago running the United States Olympic Committee at the 1928 Amsterdam Olympics. He was an incredible leader at West Point, a selfless leader at West Point, and he had a commitment to relevance, and that was reflected in the legacy of dedicating your life to the service of others. So to receive an award like that was absolutely incredible. I don't know where I would have gone or what I would have become or where I would have ended up if it was not for team handball. But I know that I would not be standing in front of you tonight and being honored had someone not given me an opportunity to try and play a game that I never played and I never saw, the great sport of team handball. It doesn't seem that long ago that I was sitting where many of you are sitting tonight at some event or gathering listening to someone rattle on about blah, 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 who knows what. And under my breath, I was saying to myself, hurry up. Can you just hurry up? Because I got things to do, and I have beer to drink at the townhouse with many of those who are in the room tonight. So I understand, and I'll try and keep this short, and I am going to keep this short. So I would say, wow, like, where did the time go? Where did the time go? I started my journey, or what I like to call my yellow brick road, in 1978 as a naive teenager from New Jersey. I feel like Dorothy in so many ways, and yes, I have met a few wicked witches, and I did say witches along the way. It's been an unbelievable journey around all edges of the globe, but more than anything, and like Dorothy, I've tried to surround myself with good people, which I consider my handball family, first and foremost in that regard. I can confidently say without reservation or hesitation that the sport of team handball changed my life for the better in so many ways. And I can say with equal confidence that there are at least 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 people in this room tonight, and probably many more whose lives will be changed forever and for the better because of team handball, and possibly making a U.S. Olympic team for the 1928 Los Angeles Olympic Games. I don't know if any of my teammates or my friends will ever see this event tonight. I'm sure we'll be able to watch it on YouTube. But if you are, I want to say thank you, and I want to say consider supporting the American Handball Associates. In order for them to continue their great work in promoting and preserving team handball in the United States. With your help, their efforts, I believe, have the potential to help put a United States team handball team on the podium in Los Angeles in 1928. Yeah, I know, it's lofty. It sounds impossible, but it's not impossible. With the right leadership and the right resources and a lot of other things, if they can fall in place, anything is possible. I also want to congratulate our men's team for a victory over Morocco, a clear-cut victory over Belgium, and more importantly, for representing USA Team Handball with class and dignity. It is a great first step on the road to LA 28. So I thank you so, so much. So let's continue to enjoy this great evening. Thanks.
We have just a little flower for the flower of the ball. So, there you go.
And I have the privilege to introduce one of my compatriots along the line. For those of you not familiar, I used to be a circle runner and still am at my heart, except they changed the terminology. But we're going to bring up a line player right now who plays for the national team, who was on that victorious team in Jönköping, Sweden, that beat Morocco. Ladies and gentlemen, Drew Donlan. And Drew, between the two of us, there's no hope that this is ever going to work. So and nobody wants to hear me, so I'm going to give you the mic and ask you a couple of questions. Notice how I put the best of some of Drew in action here. But the first thing I got to ask you was, what was the locker room like after the Morocco game? Because a lot of us have been waiting for that first World Championship victory, I know what I would have done. What did you guys do?
Well, there was no beer because we had to play the day after that game or the following day. But
just that you drank beer. I'm just saying, tell me about the spirit.
But yeah, I mean, we obviously knew it was a big win for our program, not just for the current guys, but for past players who were supporting us and for the organization, and not only for the current team, but looking ahead, as Cindy mentioned, to 2028, that build-up that we're all focused on. So it was a great moment, and for me too, just personally, it was awesome to be able to share that with my teammates who, a lot of us have been together for 4+ years, and kind of the sacrifices that I'm sure all the players and former players in the room understand that it takes, and to kind of have that moment together in that room was certainly memorable.
What's it like blending that team? Because you're one of the few Americans on the team, a lot of dual citizenship guys that are coming together from different cultures. Tell me how that mix happened, and how does the coach, Robert Hedden, keep everybody happy?
Yeah, so as many people know that Coach Hedden took over in 2018, and a big initiative that he had was getting a lot of dual citizenship players on our team, and to be honest, it's been a pretty seamless transition. I know a lot of alumni and past players that have different opinions on that strategy, but I can say as a guy in the locker room that it's worked well, not only performance-wise on the court, but relationally and our team cohesion. And even though a lot of these guys didn't grow up in the States, they certainly have a lot of pride and patriotism in our country, because many of them have one or sometimes both parents that grew up here. And a good example of that is Ian and Patrick Huter. Their mom is from here in San Francisco, and they visit every year, and they certainly consider themselves Americans, even though they've lived in Germany their whole life. But yeah, I can say it's been a positive experience.
So which Pointer brother is that with you? Is that Ian?
That's Patrick, yeah.
I just lost a bet. Are they twins, or?
They're not. Patrick is a couple years older than Ian, but Ian's our captain, but Patrick's the captain of their club team in Germany as well.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So who's higher in the pecking order?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Mom or you?
Yeah, exactly.
So I got to ask you a question about your Morocco game. 3 goals, man. You looked good. I was going, circle runners live. Yes, indeed. How did you feel after that game?
It was great. And to be honest, it was a real team win, because we had a lot of guys contributing, and personally myself, I picked up a quick 2-minute in the first half and didn't play a lot in the first half. I was a little disappointed there, but I knew it was probably going to come down to the end, and got my chance in the second half. And but yeah, we had a lot of guys contribute, and even down to the wire, most of you guys were watching that game. A lot of crazy things happened in the second half, but yeah, as a team, we were able to pull it out. So.
Okay, one last question for you, and I'm going to put you in the hot seat. Tell us what's your most optimistic view of the road, or what I call the ramp to LA, since it's a freeway town. It doesn't have roads, it has ramps. But the road to Los Angeles, tell me what your rosy picture is. Get the audience to write checks and stuff,
Yeah.
Get them going here.
Well, certainly, obviously, having a successful World Championships and picking up a couple wins when a lot of people thought we wouldn't have any wins in that tournament. But stuff we're really looking ahead to, just in a couple weeks, we have first round of Pan American qualifier. We feel very good about our chances to qualify, obviously, against Canada, and then to place pretty high in the Pan Am Games this fall. That's our first goal. But then also looking ahead, we have an automatic qualifier to the 2025 and 2027 World Championships. And a lot of our core of our team is pretty young, and so we feel pretty good about the guys that we have now. And our youth team and junior team are doing really well. Our juniors are going to the World Championships this summer. And so there's certainly a lot to look forward to with our program. And obviously that carrot and the goal of the Olympics in 2028 is what we're all focused on, but we do have a lot of big goals to achieve before that.
So just for everybody's edification, 2025 is in Norway, Denmark, and Croatia, right?
Correct.
So start booking your travel packages now accordingly. I'm not quite sure how you do that, but they have these strange little mixes. Norway and Denmark I get, and then go way over here. But you guys never had to travel down to Poland, at least this time.
Correct, yeah. We were happy to not go to Poland.
Hey, just a real quick, curious question. Who's your best friend on the team?
I would say between Ty Reed, one of my other fellow kind of, you said Americans, we consider everyone American, but Ty and I have been on the team for a while together, and so he and I have been roommates for a long time on the trips, but Ian and I actually have grown really close together too, spending some time in Germany together as well. So.
Even though you hang out with Patrick in pictures.
Yeah, well, our numbers are next to each other, so that's why.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for 2000. All right,
Mark gave me about 6 hours ago a very, very small resume because I want to do it right. And the winner of the award winner of the Cavy Award is Jean-Marc Junique. How'd I do? Correct? We've known each other for a long time, played against each other, blah, blah, blah. But as I read through your resume, you started as an 11-year-old in France. Was a state champion in 110 hurdles. At 16, was nominated as the best center back in Southeast France. Pretty impressive. He was a state and federal level referee and coach. In 2000, he was playing in regional leagues in Alcatel, Paris. Moved to the Bay Area in 2000 and to work in Silicon Valley, master's in computer science, bachelor in technology and robotics. Impressive. 22 years as a player for CalHeat. It's a record. 20 national championships, 15 Cal Cup tournaments as a player. And again, I'm not going to go into the medals, multiple medals. He was team captain for 10 years. 2010 to 2013, became the CalHeat officer and staff. And this is impressive, established a 501c3, which all the clubs are encouraged to get. CalHeat is qualified for the Super Globe. They went to Saudi Arabia. They played as a U.S. club team, have played in Canada and Mexico. They were the Club of the Year in 2022. Michelle, would you please stand up? She was Referee of the Year for USA Team Handball. Martin, you're next. Stand up, please, as Coach of the Year from USA Team Handball. Most importantly, and here's where I'd already had a shot at tequila to get me into this meeting, tremendous amount of work in youth, middle school, and high school on leagues and regular competition, which, as we all know, is what keeps kids involved. And I was reading your resume, and I noticed throughout you're always giving credit to others. And that speaks highly of you. And when I'm talking about speaking highly of people, he was talking about you, Danilo. Get off your device. He, again, spoke very highly of you, and Kristen, the women's coach. So without any more pomp and ceremonies, I introduce Mark to you.
The history of the Cavy Award, named for longtime American handball pioneer Mike Cavanaugh, begins with Ray Gerke, the man who began one of the most successful youth programs in USA history at Centerville Middle School.
This award, and I think even though we're all retired, we can still do things for handball, and in your area help with starting programs and clinics and things for handball. And I hope we all continue to do that so the sport grows. Thank you.
It continued with recognition of the efforts of Jan O'Shea, the manager of the 1996 Women's Handball Olympic team, and a woman who ran numerous national and regional tournaments over the years. Last year, we saluted Jim Thome for a career spent in service to handball at West Point with the national team and again supporting our Olympic teams. This year, we pay tribute to a man who has been instrumental in making SF CalHeat the 2022 USA Team Handball Club of the Year, a man whose vision for the club mirrored the clubs he had known growing up in France, Jean-Marc Junique.
I joined CalHeat in '98. I think he came on board early 2000s. So we played a bunch of nationals tournaments together. Then again, started to organize the club together. Lots of fun parties at my place, at his place. Just a great friend, totally awesome to have around, and just instrumental for the club. I think he's putting in an amazing amount of effort and time. Always there to help. Always willing to find out what to do next, how to make the club even better. So it's a great person to have around.
When I met Jean-Marc first, I mean, definitely, you could see that he was a very, determined and caring person. I think we got along, very, very well, very quickly. I mean, he definitely, was all about, a lot about the team itself. Right? I mean, kind of supporting the team, looking out for the success of the team and being kind of, I know it's kind of a cliche, but, you always say like true team player, right? Trying to make, the team better. And I think that continued from there on, right?
Jean-Marc has a vision. And then the amount of time and effort he has to put into this, I mean, I'm getting emails at all hours of the day and night. So I don't know if he has a job. I know he has a job, but he seems like he puts a tremendous amount of effort into the CalHeat. And he's unraveling problems and working out things between coaches and players and other teams and stuff like that. I mean, for what he's done, the effort and time, he deserves 10 Cavy awards as far as I'm concerned.
There are a few people in the club whose soul is part of CalHeat. He is such a beautiful human being and has dedicating a large chunk of his time to the club. And yes, when I think about Jean-Marc, I smile because I love him. I am glad he's part of the board, has been for many years, and without him we wouldn't be where we are today.
First, I have to say I feel humble being among you guys, so many Olympians, so many people that have done so many things for the sports before I even set foot here in the US. So for that, thank you. I feel so honored to have known Mike, and to receive an award from Mike's hand means tons to me. These guys have been inspiring me for so many years. He has been giving so much of his time that he became my role model. I wanted to give back to my community as much as he did. I don't think I will ever reach that level, but getting close. So thank you, Mike. I also wanted to say thank you to the CalHeat family, ever-growing CalHeat family, I should say, the past, the present, and the future. I also want to say thank you to the staff, to the coaches, to the volunteers, to the players, and everyone who has been able to actually bring the club to the level we are today. So for that, thank you. Thank you. That's true, Cindy, you are saying we are not alone. We definitely are not alone. We need to have around us tons of people with a big heart for the sport and for the community. So again, thank you. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank first of all, the CalHeat and Jean-Marc for allowing us to take the time to do this during the Cal Cup. I want to thank our Hall of Fame committee, which consisted of Mark Wright, Wes Brinsfield, Don Lawson, myself, and Jack Holloman. The process we went through to determine who makes the Hall of Fame was very important to those individuals. A lot of players kind of come and go through the CalHeat and other teams, and we really felt that we wanted players that were the core and the essence and the passion of the team. And so that was very important to the committee. We had a lot of debate about it, but we felt like that was the best way to go. We want anyone who does make it to the Hall of Fame to feel it's very special, and that every person subsequent to this Hall of Fame will be very deserving and be respected by all the Hall of Famers. What I've noticed about these players that made the Hall of Fame is it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Golden State Warriors with Clay and Steph and Draymond. Those guys are always winning championships. Those guys that made this Hall of Fame were championship players, and it followed them around wherever they went. And so you could see that they had the passion, the talent, the effort, the wherewithal to kind of hang in there in team handball when things were tough, when they had to find practice space, put down the courts, recruit players, find players, travel, get in vans, go down to LA, go to nationals, do whatever it had to take. And so the guys that made this team are really deserving of it, and I think our committee really is committed and felt good about that.
Aloha and hello everybody. My name is Mark Raggets, handball old guy, and I wish I could be there with you all tonight, but we had made previous plans, and right now we're in the middle of a Hawaii vacation that we haven't been able to do in years and years. So we wish you all the best. I want to say hi to all my teammates that are being inducted and those that will be on the next round. Just makes me nostalgic and think back to the days when handball got started at Cal State Hayward.
Today, the legacy of SF CalHeat in the American handball world, indeed in the international handball scene, is unquestioned. After 6 men's championships, numerous women's medals, after being named USA Team Handball's 2022 Club of the Year, after more than 40 years of continuous competition and community involvement, it is only fitting that the CalHeat Hall of Fame be created. And we now present its 6 inaugural members in the chronological order in which they joined the team. Player 1, Jack Holloman, left wing, CalHeat founder and first coach, 4-time national champion.
It's one of the real athletic highlights of my life, and it was a period of time that I needed something after graduating from Cal and playing football and rugby there. I needed an activity that I could pick some other players and do something with, and handball was that perfect mix. And hopefully the members of the Hall of Fame can also be a part of that in helping to spread the word, and because it is a great game. And right now I have so many memories that I'm so pleased to have been able to have the friendships that I've had over these last 45 years, and couldn't have been better.
We had a special name for our kickoff team, It was quite a unique group of folks, and we were called Artie's Trained Killers, and the nickname was ATK. And they would chant on the sidelines on each kickoff, ATK. It was quite a remarkable deal, and the people that were on the ATKs had to be these essentially trained killers that Artie had selected personally. And a further recognition on that kickoff team was the killers, or the gunners that are known in some programs. There was two of them, and they were called the Mad Bears, and Jackie was at such an elite level, he was a Mad Bear. So I was always jealous of him because I was always vying to be the Mad Bear, but Jackie had such an excellent speed. He was a 4.6 40 guy, and he was always the Mad Bear.
He really can bring a group of people together, and that's what he's been doing for the last 50 years, teaching his classes. I know at the Y he was pretty much famous for his workouts, and all you would have to say is, I'm going to Jack's class, and everybody would know what you're talking about. He is able to make everybody feel seen and make everybody feel welcome when they come to his classes, and to make everybody feel capable and able of doing things, no matter what their fitness level is and no matter what their background is or who they are.
Player 2, Joe McVane, right wing and backcourt. Two-time Olympian, 5-time national champion.
I was on the team for almost 10 years. Those memories go way back. A lot of it was the practices. We were on the road. We would practice in local gyms. We would practice at the Army bases whenever we could. And those floors were solid cement. We beat Yugoslavia in Yugoslavia one night, and you would have thought we got away with, I don't know, the bank. We broke into the bank because they were so angry and upset that they beat us by, must have been 20 goals the next night. But at the time, they were number 2 in the world. And so that was very cool.
He's probably one of the toughest and fearless guys to, shoot a jump shot from the right back, getting knocked on your keister by these, 6'5", 6'6" defenders, and he would peel himself off the floor, get up, and he would go back in for the next jump shot with the same intensity he did on the first one, knowing he's probably going to get knocked down again. And, I'm sure if that was a statistic that they tracked back in those days, he hit the floor more than any of our other backcourt players, just because he was up so high and the defenders were just pounding on him.
He's giving, he's sensitive, he's caring, he's loving, he's unselfish. He gives his life to the kids. He gives his life to my 2 granddaughters. They love him. And some people can come across as disingenuous, and other people you just know they have a good soul about him. And that's Joe. And those kids, his sons, and my grandsons and my granddaughter just know Joe just loves him to pieces. He's a great husband. He's a gift from God to be with Shelley, and he takes care of one of my most prized possessions.
Player 3, Steve Goss, all court positions. A 2-time Olympian, 6-time national champion.
Anytime you're inducted into a Hall of Fame, it's a great honor. And being there at the beginning and knowing, it's kind of one of those things, it was the best of times and it was the hardest of times. We sacrificed a lot to play, and we got very little recognition except for the satisfaction that we're doing something together that we loved with a group of guys and the ones that are inducted, I'm honored to be with them. Joe McVeigh and I, we've played on the national team probably for 6 years. Scott Carlson, I know him well, from Cal State, and then on the national team out in Colorado. And then, of course, the Raggets and Jack Holloman and Don Lawson. I mean, these are all people who drove this club to be where it's at today. And it's a foundation, I think, that we may have laid for the team now.
Every once in a while, he'd call me up, and usually it's some prank. I'd get some anonymous call, and I'd answer it, and he'd say, "Hey, Doc, I got a skunk stuck in my wife's bird feeder, and he's really mad, and I need you to come over and help me get him out." And I'm like, "Oh man, this doesn't sound good." And then "Hey, Rich, this is just Steve." And he did, he called with those kind of calls a lot. After a while, I got used to him. Whether it was there's an alligator in the creek, and I heard you got a dart gun, type of stuff. And anyway, but so yeah, we stayed close, and again, mostly because of him. He just and it's not just me that he's kept in contact with. He's kept in contact with others. Just a genuine friend, a faithful friend. When the chips are down, you know where he's going to be. He'll be right by your side.
He gave me more things than any of them. That was Steve Gass. Steve Gass was an incredible physical talent, an incredible psychological, I don't want to say even player, psychological person. We have any game or any important game, when I finish the talk of the team, everything was, okay guys, let's get ready, let's go there, venga, we have 5 minutes. All of a sudden, if you look for Steve Gass, you won't find him. And I knew where he will be. He will be in the darkest place you can find in that gym. He will be there sitting by himself, thinking about whatever he wants to think.
He has more that meets the eye. He's very quiet about his own accomplishments. He's modest in all the right ways that you need to be modest, but he is passionate, he's driven, and he is the hardest working person that I've ever met. So there's a lot more that meets the eye outside of even, his Olympic performance, his veterinary accolades. There's a lot more to him as a person that is deeper than what can be externally seen on the outside.
Player 4, Scott Carlson, center backcourt, a national team player, a 3-time national champion. Scott was tragically killed in a rock climbing accident in Colorado Springs in 1987.
And so when you mentioned Scotty was a heck of a defender.
Oh,
I don't know if people knew that, but he used his legs to get in the right position, and he understood where the risk was. And he would anticipate it and be there early.
He was probably my best friend from all the American players, and I've met him in Switzerland when the US team was playing here, and we stayed in contact until he unfortunately had this accident and died.
One of the memories I have of Scott, him and I, when we were at the Goodwill Games in Moscow, and together him and I went out with our used Puma socks, and we were trading our socks for those Russian rabbit hats, and we would literally trade used socks for these hats. And we had a blast. We all got together afterwards. Everyone got together and see who got the most stuff for their used socks. But Scott and I went out and did that together. Now, of course, there's just tons of handball memories when we actually played, of course. But these are just things that I remember doing with Scott that were rather special. I got to meet Scott's parents after his passing, and it was a difficult time for me to be in front of his parents. I could tell that their loss was extreme, as we all felt that extreme loss. Scott was a passionate man. He believed in what he was doing and really pursued what he was doing. quite vigorously. And he was an enjoyable person, a friendly person, and it was a good friendship, and a real loss for myself, for his family, of course, and the Handball family.
Player 5, Mark Ragetz, goalie, a 4-time national champion.
Playing against some of the people that were in the Olympics in '84, and people that we had always looked up to. You know, Jack playing against Joe Story on the wing was one of the things that I loved, because I actually got to block a couple of his shots. And I blocked a shot from Djokovic. And, you know, Schneeberger didn't get any good shots off because Dan Foster was in his face. And that, to see a team play defense that well, and to be able to contribute to that team was really gratifying and exciting. And that was probably the pinnacle of my athletic career.
Growing up out there in Lancaster, we would, just want to hang out together for the weekend or whatever. And so, try to give the parents a break. I'd stay the night at his house one weekend. He'd stay the night at my house. We'd ride bikes, just like Stingrays, bicycles, halfway, meet each other halfway or ride back. That's not necessarily an easy thing to do in the desert, but just all kinds of stuff like that. He and another one of the guys, we would play Frisbee till, there's a couple parks out there in Lancaster. They had a light in the middle of the park. We played Frisbee till 3 a.m.
Mark went into community service at public service at East Bay Parks, and I did my time. I went down and it was a public service in San Jose. I did 28 years down there, and through those times I'd see Mark at water polo games, and then eventually, of course, his sons started playing water polo, and Mark would be just the consummate dad on the sidelines, offering encouragement in between games, if it was a tournament or after the game, mentoring his sons, in a real good way. His boys are fantastic boys, and he's done obviously a fine job of raising them. There's no higher check mark than that, than how your kids turn out.
Player 6, Don Lawson, backcourt, a 4-time national champion, played second division handball in Denmark.
Ethnically, Hispanic white male was not really the prime target for recruit ball players. So I get here and I start playing handball, and I find it's this middle ground between and basketball, where I get to be physical, but nobody's trying to play in my, pass over the middle or anything. And I'm fast. I jump, run far. I never get tired. And with the big 3 times as ball court, it is the sport. And I'm hooked. I haven't played team before. Raggets and Jack are great. I meet Scott. We end up being best friends. We're on the road traveling. You'll hear later the story. Volkswagen vans loaded driving to Colorado with 5 guys, 6'3" or taller, 5 miles up in every hill, freezing doors, all kinds of stuff. It's it turns out to be a great time.
It is very apparent in terms of how much, time and how much energy he spends with Eli, how much he loves Eli, so there's an aspect of that then you bring all of who he is. He gives all of himself, to it. So, and some of it is just as simple as play, I've, seen them, going around Lake Merritt, on scooters, and ultimately the scooter is awesome because Eli likes it, it's fun, but also, Don has a thing with his knee where he can't get around as fast anymore as he used to. But if you put him on the scooter, now he can hang with Eli, and Eli can, just, go his speed or whatever, and he can make sure he's good, okay.
He's a sarcastic guy. He's real funny, sarcastic. He's also a caregiver. Like I said, he's in the health profession. My kid needed
was having issues tracking the baseball from hitting the baseball. I took him to Don. Don took care of that. Eye things, vision things with him. Like I said earlier, when I had gout, when I had high blood pressure, he took care of me. Outside of that, though, hanging out with Don, like we go to a concert, hang out, go to a game, just sit there and laugh. And like I say, he's really sarcastic, sharp sense of humor, smart sense of humor as well. And it's just funny. He's a good guy, man. He really is.
Hi, I'm Po Cheng Yu. I'm from China.
Ludovic Théa, Paris, France.
Fiona Verneret, Besançon, France.
There is a team spirit to CalHeat that is both international and local, and it embraces the very best of what handball has to offer. We celebrate our success and the successes of our competitors here with us tonight as well. The toast is to our sport and to SF CalHeat, a team that has come to mean something special to anyone who has been a part of it.
CalHeat is a big part of my life, and I have met my match through the club, and I'm actually getting married with him this summer. It's a huge part of my life for that reason too. I'm getting married this summer. But no, if I can use this moment, I want to express my gratitude to all of those that have founded the club, because without them, we wouldn't have shoulders to stand on. So thank you very much, and may the next 40 years be as fruitful as they've been.
Let me start out with our first Hall of Famer, and he is the founder, and that's Jack Holloman. So Jack, left wing, Cal State. We found out some interesting things. Jack was in the Marine Corps, and came out and played football at Cal Berkeley, and had a reputation as a very good specialty teams player. And I took that to the court in team handball, and those leadership qualities, Jack, that you brought to those teams and to the club. Jack, want to come up and talk, say some words?
Sure will. Thank you very much. It's a real humbling position to be able to be up here and look out and feel proud about where the club is currently and where it started. We were at Cal State Hayward, and for a couple of first years, it was the Cal State Hayward was the name of our team, and we were actually in the collegiate bracket, and then we progressed into the open sessions. I love the fact that we were able to recruit people that were like local athletes and track athletes and football and water polo, and it was so exciting for me just to go around campus and try to draw them into this new sport that I had just heard about from one of the coaches from the track team at Cal State Hayward. And we were able to attract good athletes and learned a little bit about the game. We're really encouraged by Mike Cavanaugh and the UCLA team and USC teams to be able to up our game, because one of our initial goals was to be able to beat UCLA, and we eventually did do that and moved on to some other goals too. I am very, very humbled to be up here and just think back about the wild, wild west of not knowing anything about this great European game. It was European to us. And to be able to bring it to athletes, and then to see those same athletes in not too many years later moving on to be able to be in the Olympics, to be in a national sports festival, and to be success in their own right, and their lives have really moved on into different areas in medicine, and I'm very, very grateful to be able to spend some time seeing them again in this venue 45 years later. And thank you so much for this presentation and being in the first class. Thank you.
Okay, our second player. Thanks, Mark.
Just a mere threat.
Joe McVeigh. Joe, would you like to come up, say some words?
Thank you. I promise I'm not going to mention Mike Cavanaugh again. No. It's my honor, believe me. Get these notes up here. First of all, many thanks to Mark and Wes to put all this stuff together. I know they worked hard to do this, and I appreciate it. I owe many thanks to Mike Cavanaugh. You've heard it 1,000 times. Cavy brought team handball to the West Coast. He continues, even though he thinks he's backing out of it a little bit, he continues every day, all day, promoting, supporting handball. It's in his blood. Jack Holloman. When Jack says he would pester us to come join team handball, I was supposed to play D3 basketball at Cal State Hayward, and he was always in the gym over on the side, and we were just trying to run, play ball, and he'd come over and put a bug in my ear, and hey, we're Wednesday nights, we're practicing. And I'm so glad I finally took him up on it. I owe Jack everything for being a pain in the butt. But it's because of these two guys that I'm here tonight, and it's because of these two guys I can say I'm an Olympian. They're the only reasons, I have to say. They're also responsible for all the titanium I have in my body. There's a lot of titanium in my body. Congrats to my fellow inductees in this first class. I look around, there's so many memories, all the travel. We used to drive to our tournaments. I know you guys probably fly, big bucks. We would leave like on Wednesday and get to Colorado Springs on Friday for our first match. We'd be rolling in and guys are getting dressed in the van. But Donnie, Goose, Mark Ragetz, and Scott Carlson. You guys haven't met Scott yet. He passed a few years back, but great teammate, one of the funniest guys I've ever known.
It's with sadness we report a technical problem prevents from further coverage of the events of Handball Heroes IV, specifically the induction speeches of Steve Goss and Don Lawson, and those of Mark Schindler and Wes Brinsfield, who accepted for Scott Carlson and Mark Ragetz, respectively, in addition to the end of Joe McVeigh's speech. We apologize. We bring you these last few still images of a night steeped in memories and dedicated to the further growth of SF CalHeat and the great sport of handball. As Wes and I reminded the crowd at the end of the evening, keep in mind the date of August 3rd, 2024, the proposed date for Handball Heroes V in Long Beach, California, site of the handball competition for the 2028 games. We'll see you there.